Meanwhile, in Mali, tensions are still running high after the announcement of partial results in Monday's high-stakes presidential elections. At last count, Mali's former prime minister was in the lead and in reach of an outright win in this first round of voting. But his closest rival is rejecting the results and insists the election must go to a second-round runoff. CCTV's Kate Parkinson reports from Mali's capital.
Supporters of former Finance Minister Soumaïla Cissé are not going to give up easily. Following the announcement of partial results, which put former Prime Minister Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta in the lead, Cissé's supporters gather for a rally in the capital. The message is clear: the battle is not over.
The thunder crashing overhead and the rain pouring down certainly adds to the drama here, as inside the stadium, the party of Soumaïla Cissé rallies their troops. The fight is not over, they say. They insist there will be a second round and that Cissé will win.
Cissé's party strongly rejects the partial results and says it will take its complaint to the Constitutional Court.
According to our numbers, our candidate won in most of the regions in the country. So we are sure 100% that there will be a second round. Concerning Bamako specifically, our lawyers have revealed a lot of irregularities, and we will take this to court. That will make our candidate's score better, but no matter what, at this time, a second round is absolutely necessary.
With tensions simmering, it's a reminder of just how divided Mali is following last year's coup.
Each crisis reveals the divisions that we have in Mali. And indeed, this election was meant to unite people, but it could take a wrong turn and increase the division, and this is a danger that we are currently facing.
Ballot counting is ongoing, and as Mali waits for the final results, the country's fragile stability still hangs in the balance. Kate Parkinson, CCTV, Bamako.
For more on the elections in Mali and Zimbabwe and the possibilities for real change for either country, I'm joined by Dr. J. Peter Pham. He's the director of the Africa Center at the Atlantic Council. Dr. Pham, thank you for joining us. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
You know, let's start with Mali. Some say that these elections came too soon after last year's coup. And with these contested results that are starting to come out, is this the beginning of more trouble for Mali?
Well, it really depends on how the results are announced, what is announced, and how the international community as well as local actors respond to it. Certainly, Mali has been brought back from a near-death experience, one could say. Last year, the country had a military coup. Two-thirds of national territory was taken over by insurgent rebels aligned with al-Qaeda's regional franchise. Fortunately, a timely military intervention led by the former colonial power France, with support from Mali's neighbors, drove back the insurgents. They're not totally defeated, but they're on the run, and created a climate in which an election could be held. Were there imperfections? There seem to be some. On the other hand, voter turnout is the highest Mali's ever seen, so that says something as well. So now it's important that the results be delivered in a credible, transparent manner, and that all parties respect those results. But in order for them to respect those results, they have to be done credibly. Otherwise, we sow the seeds for problems to come in the future.
Well, then, and do you see the international community stepping in if there are problems with those results?
I think the international community needs the elections to work in Mali, both to cover the French withdrawal of its military forces, to allow the UN to exercise its mandate in peacekeeping, and to permit countries like the United States, which have suspended assistance to Mali because of the coup, to restore assistance. Because Mali, ultimately, what it needs is economic and political development in order to bring back stability. So the international community needs these elections to work. So I call them the good enough elections. But we have to be careful that good enough gets us past today and tomorrow, but it's not enough to build a long-term prospect.
Well, and let's turn to Zimbabwe now. You know, we saw just a few moments ago a story about these two brothers traveling so many miles across the continent to vote. What do you make about the turnout there?
Well, it seems from all reports that there's been a large turnout. It's been more peaceful, more enthusiasm than we've seen in a long time in that country. So that's a positive sign. On the other hand, we have to recall that the 2008 elections, the problems weren't with the voting, it was how people responded afterwards. When one candidate led in the first round, the other candidate unleashed a campaign of violence that ultimately scuttled the second round, and the international community stepped in and encouraged the parties to join together in a loveless unity government that has brought the country to this election. But I don't think that process can be allowed to be repeated. And if it is repeated, I think there are grave dangers, not only to Zimbabwe itself, but to the stability and peace of the region.
We have about 30 seconds left. Do you think Mugabe stays?
Well, I find it very hard to imagine him doing anything other than what he's done for the last 33 years, which is govern Zimbabwe and in recent years led it down to a path from which it's going to be very, very difficult for anyone.
All right, Dr. Pham, we appreciate
Dr. Pham, we appreciate